Thank you for joining us for the EVA Report and Resource Center 101 training. Now we have several different report environments that are accessible through our EVA website. One is our public reports, which you can find under the Transparency tab. And we also have a variety of external reports that are found throughout our EVA website. But the focus of today's training is going to be the Report and Resource Center, and you will receive a basic overview and tour of this area. So let's go ahead and log in. To access the Report and Resource Center, you log into EVA through your buyer login. Once you are in the EVA portal, as you can see here, you can access the Report and Resource Center by going to the Go To menu at the top, and you can see in the drop-down menu, you can access the Report and Resource Center by clicking there on the button. And as you can see, this takes us right into the Report and Resource Center homepage. Now today we're going to cover an overview of what you'll find in the Report and Resource Center homepage. We're going to talk a little bit about reports and their design and some of the components that you'll see in most of our reports. And we're also going to cover scheduling of reports so you can have that information automatically delivered to you. Let's start with a basic overview of our report center. When you begin here on the left side of the screen, you see we have a menu for all of our reports. You'll see some EVA scheduled reports at the top, and as you page down, you're going to see a variety of different categories of reports. Some of these may pertain to vendor data, spend analysis, we have some approval cycle time reports, solicitation, contract management, and even P-card reports. Now the list you're seeing on my screen may contain some additional items, and that's because I do have administrator access, so we do have a lot of internal EVA reports on my list as well. But as you get to the bottom, you will see there's a section for entity scheduled reports, and I'm going to talk about this a little later. And if you have been through training and been granted access to our ad hoc reporting tool, you'll find that link right here at the bottom. Next to our Report tab on the left side, we also have a Documents tab. This menu actually contains a lot of information. We've got report information sheets for most of our reports, which will tell you a little bit about all of the fields that each report contains and the purpose or the usefulness of those reports. And then we also have a variety of forms and user guides to help you throughout our EVA website. We have everything from agency security and a variety of EVA training guides available to you. So make sure to check out the documents section to find any helpful user guides if you are looking for training in any part of our system. In the center of our Report and Resource Center, you'll see a variety of graphics. We call these our Commonwealth Purchasing Metrics. And as you can see, they're going to just list some quick charts that are going to pertain to your entity, so you can see things like the top 20 commodities that have been purchased for your current and your prior fiscal year. Things like solicitation postings, small business spend, top 20 vendors. These are just available to you to have a quick visual overview of these areas. Next to that, on the right side of the page, you're going to see a favorites menu. Now, if there's a report that you are accessing on a very frequent basis and you want to be able to come in and find it right away, you can actually add these reports to your favorites menu and they will appear right here in the list, and I will show you how to do that in just a moment. And you can do the same for documents that you may want to reference frequently. At the top of our page, you can see there is a link if you need to return back to the EVA portal. And as I go down here, the last thing I want to show you is our report menu items. So when you're in the report list and you want to start to look at or find more information about a report, when you hover over the titles, you will see that there is a little pop-up tooltip that's going to tell you a little bit about that report. And when you click on that report title, a menu is going to appear for you. This menu is going to contain the option to open the report, which we'll go through in a moment, Here's your option to save it as a favorite, and then it will appear in the favorites menu at the top of the screen where I showed you. There's a link to the report information, and that's a document that will explain a little bit about the report and every column or field that's contained within it. And then at the bottom, your last option will be to schedule that report. And we're going to talk about scheduling a little bit later. And I do want to note that if you're going through your report list and you don't see the option to schedule your report, this is something that has to be turned on to grant you access to it. So just reach out to your account executive and let them know that you don't have the scheduling option and that it would be useful to you, and they can help you get set up with access for report scheduling. We're going to jump in now into the look and feel of reports, and this section is going to cover what you're going to see as far as the design and the components that you're going to find in most of the reports in our Report and Resource Center. Now, we do have 3 different types of reports. These are going to be parameter reports, analysis grid reports, and schedulable reports. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these types of reports. So let's take a look here at our report menu in the Report and Resource Center, and we're going to go ahead and open a report. Now again, you do that by clicking on the title of the report you want to open, and the menu will pop up so you can click open. Now the first type of report that you'll see very commonly is called a parameter report. Most of our reports are going to open up first to a parameter page like you see here. And this is going to give you a bunch of different options that you can enter to define exactly what date range you want your data to be for, and it'll give you some different selection criteria if you need to filter down your data in any meaningful way. So first of all, if you have the ability to see multiple entities, you'll be able to select from a list. And again, I do have administrator access, so I can select any entity, but you may be limited to just your own, or if you oversee a small group of entities, then you may have the option to select from those. And the next field that's going to be on all of our reports is a date range field. This offers you a preset drop-down where you can select some options of different date ranges that you can choose from. And some of these might be by the week, by the month, and some of our reports will even offer date ranges from quarterly or fiscal year options. Now at the bottom of the date range field, I do want to make note that there is a custom selection that you can make. And what this does is if any of those preset options don't work for you, you can use the custom option. It's going to populate a little from and to field with a calendar icon, and this is going to let you select any date range of your choice. Following that, we're going to use we'll use last week for example here. Following that, you'll have a few options to select from. Some of these might be already preset or pre-populated, and you can choose to check or uncheck any boxes. The next section that you will see very commonly in our parameter pages is what's called our optional selection criteria. And this is going to be just a series of different categories that you can filter your reports by. This might just help you kind of narrow down the data that you're looking for. So as you can see here, we've got some options. We can select if we want to look at just small business purchase orders, or maybe purchase orders that are in a specific status or that fall in a specific PO category. If you don't want to select any of these, that's fine. You can actually leave any of this blank or as is, and your report will just pull with all of the information. Now when you get to the very bottom of the report, you have the option to run the report with the parameters that you selected, or there will be a button if you want to reset your form. So let's go ahead and run the report. Now generally sometimes our Logi system is doing a lot of calculations and gathering a lot of data behind the scenes, so it might just take a couple seconds for that report to generate. And as you can see here, this is what it'll look like when your report pulls up. Now what you're going to see is at the top of your report, there's going to be a little area that defines exactly when your report was run with a date and time stamp. And that also lets you know when the data was last refreshed in our data warehouse as well. The second you're going to see is if you had a series of query selections from that optional selection criteria and you can't remember what you pulled or what you selected, it's going to list them all here so you can see that we just didn't select any of that criteria, and it'll say all for all of these options. Now, this is actually an example of a report that contains an analysis grid. Now, some of our reports contain these features. That is going to be in this menu bar right here. And as you can see, the reports that contain the analysis grid options just give you a bunch of additional ways that you can manipulate and filter down your data. You can add sorting, you can add filtering, there's some grouping or aggregation functions, there's an option for charting or what kind of paging you would like. But I do want to point out the layout button, and what this one does is we actually provide a lot of different data fields in some of these reports, and the analysis grid style lets you select just the fields that you may be interested in for whatever analysis you're doing. So you can actually select and deselect any of these boxes and keep that report limited to just things that might be meaningful to you. And when you click OK, you can see that now our report is filtered down to just those columns and fields that we wanted to see for whatever our analysis may be. Now at the top right-hand corner of all of our reports, you're going to see again a few more options. Now the first I'll point out to you is the Save to Favorites. So especially with this analysis grid option in this report, if you have your report sort of tailored and filtered down the way that you like it and you don't want to have to come in and do that every time, there's a Save to Favorites button here, which is going to save those features and those selections to your favorites menu on your main report and resource page, and then you can come in and those settings will be saved for you every time. There is a refresh button. We do have our Logi reporting tool is fed in by our data warehouse on a regular basis, multiple times throughout the day. So if you've got this up for a while and maybe there's been a refresh, you can always see if new data has come in the last couple of hours. Next to that, we do have usually a few buttons that are for our exporting. And so you'll generally see that there's a PDF option, an Excel option for your exports, and some reports will also contain the option to export as a CSV. And that completes a tour of the basic design and components that you will see in our reports. In this final section of our tour through the Report and Resource Center, we're going to talk about scheduling reports. This is a way for you to automate the delivery of your reports with the parameters that you choose directly to your email, or there is a way to have them scheduled to be delivered online, and I'll show you where to access that. Now, scheduling is generally used for two things. The first instance, which is great to use scheduling, is when you have a report that you use repeatedly or on a very frequent basis, and rather than having to come into the Report and Resource Center over and over whenever you need it, you can just actually set it up with all the parameters that you need to have it sent directly to your email on the interval that is needed for you. That is one of the first reasons it is really great idea to use scheduling. Now, the second reason that scheduling comes into play is when you're going to pull a report, maybe for let's say an entire fiscal year, when you need to pull a lot of data and you're going to have a really large file. This is a great time to use the scheduler as well. And that's because behind the scenes, our Logi reporting tool does a lot of calculations and it's got a lot of data to go through and gather as it's pulling those reports with those specific parameters. So if you're requesting a lot of data, that report just might take a little bit of time to generate. So it's a better idea when you're going to have to do that to schedule it. And then what it does is that schedule will run overnight when our servers are a lot less busy, and that will come right to your email the next day when you come in and begin work, and you can find it there. So those are the instances when scheduling is really effective to use. Now, you can get reports scheduled to two different places. Now, first of all, I did mention it can come directly to your email, and the second is directly into the Logi system online. So let's take a look at our Resource Center here. We're going to walk through the report scheduler. So the first thing we're going to do is go down and select the report that we want to schedule. Again, you're going to click on that menu. It's going to drop down for you and the Schedule Report option should appear. Now, if this option is not appearing for you, it is something that access has to be turned on in your user account. So if you don't see it, just reach out to your account executive and they can assist you with turning that feature on for you. And secondly, there are a few reports where the scheduler just isn't set up for it. And so you might find that as well. Again, just reach out to your account executive to verify if it's either the report doesn't offer that feature or if your scheduler needs to be activated for your user account. We're going to click on Schedule Report, and what's going to pop up is our report scheduler. It should indicate that right at the top. Now, the first part of the scheduler, it's going to actually go through all of the same parameters that you're going to see for the report itself, and that just gives you those same options to be able to select all of the data and information that you're specifically looking for. So you're going to select your date range for whatever it is that you choose. You're going to fill in those optional selection criteria for whatever you want your report to look like. And then once you pass that section, there is a reset button if you need to start over, but you're going to see a section down at the bottom with the scheduled report details. And this is where you're going to actually define how often your report is going to be sent out automatically. So the first box that you see gives you the frequency. So you can have that come just one time, which again, if you're just pulling a report once with a lot of data, you might only need it to be scheduled to your email just one time. But if you do that drop-down menu there, you can see there is also some options to have it sent to you daily, weekly, or monthly. And the note here indicates that scheduler is going to begin at 5 a.m. every morning. So when you come in and you open up your email and you start work at 8 a.m., you're going to see that that report should already be there for you. So let's just select weekly, for example. You can actually schedule it to come in an interval of every couple of weeks, and you can choose the day that you want your report to run. You can also select monthly, and again, you get those same options. And if you don't want your report to run every month, but maybe just every couple of months, you can click or unclick these boxes, and you can specify exactly which months you want that report to arrive. There's a start date option for you. So you can start that report. The default is going to be filled in with the next day, but if you want to maybe postpone it and have it sent out in a month or in a week, then you can use the little calendar icon and you can indicate clearly which day you want that scheduler to begin. Now, if you do want it to run for just a period of time, you actually have the option to select an end date if you check that box. And if you don't check it, it'll just continue until you want to stop it. I will show you in the report scheduler log where you can go in and actually delete those scheduled jobs if you no longer need them. It is going to be required for your scheduler that you give your report output a name. And this is going to be the title of the email that comes to you. And the second thing that you have to fill in is the task description. And this is going to be the file name of the report that is attached to your email. So you can make this very specific if you're going to save those files. And you even have the option to select this checkbox here, which adds the run date and time to your report output name. So if you are saving all of those or archiving them in a file, they'll be detailed with exactly what date and time they were run at. And then the active button here is always going to be checked by default. But if you deactivate that, then your scheduler will no longer be active. So you want to make sure that is turned on so that these will be scheduled to your email. And the next section is where you're going to choose your delivery method and your file type. Now, again, this is where you can define if you want the report scheduled directly to your email. Just check the box. Or if you want it scheduled online to your scheduled reports, I'll show you where to retrieve those in a moment. You can choose one or both, whichever you want. And when you select them, you'll have the option to choose how do you want that file type to come to you. You can have it as a PDF, an Excel file, or a CSV file. They're automatically going to be defaulted to be sent in the WinZip format, which does save space, especially if you're pulling a very large amount of data. You're probably going to want to make sure that you check that WinZip format. I'll uncheck it for this example, and then your email address as the user of this account will be automatically populated. But if you choose to copy anyone else on this report, you can simply add a semicolon and you can type those emails in for whoever else would like to receive this report as well. There's even an option down here for a blind carbon copy. And the online option again will offer you the same options on how you would like those files delivered if you select that. And this bottom section may be visible to only admin users. It is only applicable for EVA admin users, so you don't need to worry about that. And at the bottom, you have the option to cancel your request or click schedule and your report will be scheduled. Let's click schedule, and it'll take a couple moments to set this up. Once your report is scheduled, you will see the report scheduler log will come up on your screen. And you'll be able to see in the top line the reports that you have scheduled. And you can see some basic information about them with the title, the scheduling frequency that you set, when the initial schedule is set to run. There is a last run column, and this one obviously doesn't have that because it hasn't run yet, but if it was run, it would indicate the last time that report was run, who it was scheduled by. And in the actions column here in the center, you have a few options. So you have the edit task option. If you click this button, it's actually going to open the scheduler back up, and you have the opportunity to modify any of those scheduler details that we just defined. Now here's a really great button here. The little folder indicates run now when you hover over it. Now if you set up a schedule for a report and it's not going to run until the next day, but you really want to get it right now, you can go ahead and click the run now button, and it will start that process, and it'll show up in your email or wherever you have it scheduled to as soon as it completes. So you can do that immediately. And this is often used to run tests. I do it often when I'm just testing the scheduler and making sure that reports are being delivered. And then you often also have a X here, which is your delete button. It'll completely delete the scheduled job. And you can do the same over here with a mass delete. With the delete job column, if there's several of them that you'd like to delete, you can click the delete job box. And when you page all the way down to the bottom of the list, there's an option to submit changes or to cancel. And if you click submit changes, any of those highlighted boxes will be deleted. Now let's go back out to the reporting center. And I'm going to show you where you would retrieve those entity schedule reports. So down here at the bottom where I showed you the entity schedule reports, the first button is the report scheduler log. That's where you would access exactly where I just showed you. And you can access this by clicking open. Again, this is the area that you can come into whenever you need to manage your scheduled jobs. And the second button, show all entity schedule reports. If you were to schedule your report to be delivered online, you do have to log into the Logi Report and Resource Center to access those reports. And you click right here, use the open button, and it's going to take you into a list of all of the reports that have been delivered online. And as you can see, they're already set up, they're already run, and all you have to do is click on the hyperlink, and the download will immediately begin for that report that you scheduled in the format that you defined in the scheduler. So this is where you're going to find all of those scheduled reports with the parameters you set if you have it delivered online into our system. And that completes the overview of the scheduling process. Thank you so much for taking the Basic Report and Resource 101 training. If you have any questions, please route those through your account executive and we'll work together to find those answers for you. And again, we are also always striving to make continuous improvements to our reports. whether that's through modifying some of our existing reports to help with any of your business processes, or sometimes it's even adding new reports that can help streamline some of your business processes as well. If you have any ideas for a new modification or a new report, please just contact your AE and let them know, and we will talk about that and work through it together. Thank you so much for joining our training today.